Michelle, I want to welcome you to the Your First Franchise podcast. You are from Minneapolis. You're the founder of Face Foundry, but you've been at this entrepreneurship game for a while, straight out of college, and you've had quite a journey. And we could talk about that in a minute. But you started with Premp, but in 2023, you were awarded the Entrepreneur of the Year award. Congratulations! That's a big deal.
Thank you.
40 under 40 for Minnesota business. Is it the Minnesota Business Journal type magazine?
Minneapolis St. Paul Business
Yep.
Journal. Yes, thank you.
And then you've been written up in Forbes for the growth that you've had with this business and in the trajectory that you're going. So, Michelle Henry, welcome to Your First Franchise. This is a special episode we do as part of the Close the Deal podcast. And you're based in Minnesota, right?
We are
Well,
based in
well,
Minnesota.
what part of Minnesota?
So our headquarters are actually in Eden Prairie, but our
Eden.
first location was in Edina in the
Okay.
Galleria. So I know you've been up here. You're
Yep.
familiar with the chain of lakes. It's gorgeous in the summer. We're obviously chatting right now, end of January. So maybe hold off on visiting, but we can certainly have you come spring and summer, and it's a delightful place.
I love it. One of the coldest times I've ever been, I exited one of the walkways and the wind was carrying me down the street,
Oh, yeah.
in the middle of the winter. So,
Yep. Oh, that happens. I mean, 2 weeks ago, it was -22. Doesn't feel
holy,
like -22. It was literally 22 degrees below 0 here.
that's that's crazy. Well, and we had snow in New Orleans, so the world is kinda going
Backwards.
sideways on us.
Yeah.
We didn't have a little snow, we had, a foot of snow. So for us, that's a huge deal. All right, let's dive into a little bit about your background. I love asking this question because you've been down this road now since, what, 2010-ish when you
Yep.
got started as an entrepreneur? What is the biggest challenge, the one that just kinda knocked you, and how did you come back from that in business?
I think the biggest challenge in business is actually starting. Like, how
Nah.
many people are like, "I had this idea, or I'm gonna do this." I've been caught in that, like, analysis paralysis, right? Where you're like, "Oh my gosh, I really wanna do this." And you're scared to take the leap. So I personally think that first leap and just actually doing it and having the gumption to do it, that is what holds people up initially. So
And you did that right out of college. So what was did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family? What was the spark to get that going right away?
I did. So I was fortunate. I actually started working for my parents' business. My dad still owns that business,
Mhm.
digging in-ground pools. So I
Oh,
started
wow.
with them at 13, and
Oh
I
my God.
learned so much about what it takes to be a business owner and how you basically eat, sleep, and breathe that business. And it was a family business. My siblings and I, dinner table discussions, we heard all about the business, and it was good exposure. And I think ever since I was a kid, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur and have my own business.
Yeah, that makes such a difference. I mean, I did not hear those conversations grow up. My dad was a dentist. I didn't hear those conversations growing up. I've always had that bent to be an entrepreneur myself, but that is such an advantage to have that mindset at a young age, instilled at that young age. And this next question, really, I have a feeling I have an idea where this may go based on your answer. Who or what are you grateful for that helped you get you where you are today?
Oh my gosh. Well, just the mentorship and guidance I've had,
Mhm,
obviously through my parents and their business and
mhm,
learning kind of the what to do's and maybe what not to do's, and
mhm,
both are very equally important, but I've had some fantastic mentors, and I would not be here today without them, and so I'm a big believer in giving back, and I actually just sat down with a few ladies that are looking to start their own business. I think
mhm,
that's super important because I truly wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have had, the path and the guidance,
mhm.
and it's just it's beneficial all around. It's the circle of, life and business.
It is, and like you, I've been fortunate to have 2, actually 3 incredible mentors throughout my career, and, it saves you a lot of time, heartache, and it also accelerates. You right of college. It accelerates the process.
100%. And actually, we went through SCORE, and
Mhm.
they partner, retired executives or retired entrepreneurs with young aspiring entrepreneurs, and we had
Mm,
the most magnificent mentor in the world, and he truly shaped how we ran our first business.
that's all. That is awesome. So let's talk about tell us what the first business was, and then we're gonna transition quickly to your franchise at hand. But what was the
Yes.
first one that you started right out of college? I'm curious.
Yes. It was called Primp. It's actually still in existence,
Mhm,
women's clothing chain, and we started
mhm,
with just one store, um, titled A Cheap Chic Boutique. So everything was under $100, most things were under 50. This was a real novelty because back in 2010, really that didn't exist, and so
mhm.
very high-end feeling without the price tags, and we started myself and my business partner, we each brought $8,000 to the table, and the first 4 hours that we were open, we sold out of every single piece of clothing in the store. We were overnighting shipments. It was astounding to just see, okay, everybody showed up and they really wanted, inexpensive clothing. So from there, after 8 years, we grew it to 25,000,000 in sales and had over a 1,000,000 women come through that we dressed through
That's
Primp.
unbelievable. That's an incredible statistic.
Thanks. I learned
That
so much, and a lot of what I learned about clienteling and customer service,
mm.
it translated to, obviously, Face Foundry.
And then you sold the business,
I did. I sold
and
my sh
then you sold your share, and then you waited all of another incredible statistic, 5 minutes to start another to sign the lease for the what business we're getting ready to talk about.
Yes. I waited 5 minutes to sign the lease. I knew I did not wanna take on both businesses at the time. I really wanted to be all in, especially in facial services, and
Mhm.
so we signed the lease for the Galleria Face Foundry, and the rest is history.
I love to ask the question, as entrepreneurs, you solve a problem, you address the problem with the first business, you know, clothes under $100 that were still perceived as higher end, and there was nothing like it, so you found that space.
Yeah.
What was it about Face Foundry? What was the problem you saw, and then how did you well, this is gonna start unpacking the brand of Face Foundry for us.
Yeah. It was actually in 2017, I had just had my 3rd child, and I was really struggling with hormonal acne, and I just couldn't get a handle on my skin. And as I sought out advice, truly the only place to go was a med spa, and it was 9 to 5. The hours were very constrictive, and it was a very high price point. That to me, just it wasn't in the cards from an efficiency standpoint, also from a lifestyle standpoint of being able to leave my 3 kids. So I wanted something that would be approachable in price point and also have extended hours outside of your traditional office hours. I could not find it. I mean, I searched for years, and finally I decided, okay, if I'm struggling with this and I'm seeking this out, I cannot be the only one trying to solve this
Mhm.
problem.
And so you launched the business. What was the response the same, similar? You had a base to work with, a network of
I
people
did, I
and a customer base. Was the
you know
response
what? It
similar?
was Yep, it was a we did have a few customers move over, but truly it was a new client base because
Okay,
my former retail business didn't have a presence in the city that we opened in.
okay.
So it was a little bit different, but yes, right out the gate, it was super positive reaction. Our location it was a pretty small footprint. It was
Mhm.
next to a Starbucks, and so in a very busy mall, and that helped alleviate a lot of our marketing originally
Sure.
because, when
Yeah.
you're a startup,
Foot
you
traffic.
are
Mhm.
trying to get scrappy. And that location was just fantastic, and I give a lot of kudos to the mall staff that really got excited about a new concept like ours coming into the Galleria, and so they were very
Mhm.
supportive, but the clients showed up. They were excited to try something new.
That's awesome. And so you get started. What does it look like for the customer let's talk about the customer first before we talk
Yep,
about someone who's considering this as a potential investment with you.
absolutely.
What does it
So
look like for the customer when what are the services? What's the environment look like? How would you describe that?
I'll walk you through when you walk in the doors, very clean, gender neutral aesthetic. That was something that
Mhm,
was very important to me. I didn't want to turn anyone off with having a bright pink store. I wanted to make sure that anyone and everyone with the face feels
mhm,
welcome to come in and we can meet them on their
mm,
skincare journey. From there, we have a signature scent, so it smells absolutely amazing. Every store has the same scent. You walk in, our front bar, are very welcoming. They're always greeting our guests, making sure that they're taking care of them. They'll offer them coffee, water, any sort of beverage that they want. And from there, our clients decide what service they would like. Typically, they're deciding prior to coming in and booking an
mm,
appointment, but we do have walk in availability at most stores. So, with that, we have our 40-minute focused facials, and
mhm.
we also have then our more advanced facials. We have brow services, and we have lash lift and tint, and then a wide variety of products. All of these price points, though, are very approachable. I took lessons from my first business and saw the impact of a high-end environment and then creating that surprise and delight with a little bit more approachable
Mhm.
price point, and that is so crucial to our success.
Okay, so and this space is certainly, in high demand. People wanna look good, right? Wanna feel that makes them feel good when they look good.
Yep.
Somebody considering this as an investment, from a marketing standpoint, I mean, it's an easy product service to market in my opinion, coming by my background,
Yeah.
very, very easy, and word of mouth for sure travels quick, and then you can, do so much with social with this. Someone considering this, um, let's unpack what the business model looks like for them. How many people are they in? Is it passive, passive? Do you want somebody to come in full time? What are those? Let's just start unpacking.
Our model works well with that owner operator that is a pillar in their community.
Mhm,
Truly, that mission, it starts from the top, and being able to execute our mission and make people feel good, whether it's clients or service providers or staff, it comes from that franchisee. And we've done a fantastic job. I think our franchisees really mirror our mission and our values. So I think that's important to call out. So I would say absentee owner, probably not the best for our business,
okay.
because it does require a little bit more hands-on and to be a staple in your community. We want you to be able to speak to the other businesses you wanna partner with, understand the Chamber of Commerce, understand who are your clients in this specific market. So I
Mm,
would call that out first and foremost. From there, we have really great rapport with our franchisees, and again, it's making sure that they are aligned with the brand. That does not mean that they have to be an esthetician or have a background in aesthetics. And I think that's an important call out because maybe that could be misperceived as something that they would have to possess, cosmetology certificate or some other certification. But that is something we provide a lot of that hands-on training from an operations standpoint.
Did you figure this out, or did how did you learn how to do this? I'm curious.
Okay, here's a secret. I am not an esthetician.
That's
I am not. I know you think I am, but I'm not. I think of myself as an honorary esthetician, although that comes with no certification. So, honestly, I've surrounded the business with really strong people in aesthetics that have done it before, that have come from other business, systems that have been in aesthetics, or they've been estheticians themselves. So we
and that's important for
really.
people to hear, because people
Oh,
don't think a lot of times people considering a franchise, if this is the first time they've listened to a podcast about franchising or doing their research, they think a lot of times they have to be the person that knows everything about the details on how to get it going. They're not there to do that.
totally. And we
Yeah.
actually have an aesthetic school as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's a separate business entirely. you do not have to go through our school to work at Face Foundry, and you do not have to work at Face Foundry to, graduate from our school. But it's been a great way to learn maybe where some of the disconnects are for students graduating and how we can help them, whether it is working in Face Foundry or charting their own path.
So let's talk about the marketing for a second, because everybody gets nervous about marketing. And interestingly enough, my high school here just they send us an annual book every year, and they show where the students are going to college and so forth and what they're going to study. And
Yeah.
marketing was at the bottom of the list of what they're going to study, which I was surprised about. It's
Huh.
engineering, medical, uh, tech, all these
Yeah.
other areas. And marketing was so the support from marketing is always critical for a startup. How do you support companies? And I want to ask, before you answer that question, the name Face Foundry. I always love to ask origin of a name.
Let's
How did you come
start
up with
there.
that name?
Let's unpack the name. Well, that wasn't the first name I decided.
Okay. Okay.
So I pitched our flagship under a different name. And
Mm,
I went to go file the trademark because, as you know, in franchising, you have to have the trademark.
absolutely.
And I missed getting the trademark by like 90 days. Some woman in
Oh,
Florida had that name, and I was just devastated. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and I had close to 1,000 names I had laid out. And I had
oh, I
landed
believe it.
on Face Foundry, and I loved the idea of take the guesswork out of the business. Like,
Mhm.
immediately it's going to be
It's
something
face.
around facial services.
Mhm.
I like the simplicity behind that. But
Mhm.
Foundry, you think of it, it's kind of molding, shaping, there's a little bit of alchemy involved, and having that kind of transformation. I liked the double iteration of the two F's. So it just worked. And the
It
second I
does.
landed on it, I was like, oh, that's it. So it it's a work in progress, right? I mean, when you're naming a business, it's like naming a child. You have to put a lot of thought behind it, and even more so, like checking the trademarks, checking the URLs. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it was being flexible and understanding that, the trademark and making sure our franchisees down the line were protected. That was
Mhm.
something super important,
That's critical.
first and foremost.
That is critical. I've talked to a few franchisors who one got into it and they figured that out after the fact. They had
Oh,
to go
yeah.
chase down the person who had the trademark. So
Yep.
it worked out a deal, but that could have never worked out, and he was less luck. They were lucky.
Yep.
So you did the homework on the front end. I love the name. The name, and you're right. It says it exactly what it is. You know what it is. Well, you don't have to explain it.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah,
So for the
it's
marketing for the franchisees, let's talk about how do you all help them get the word out? What works best for you all?
Oh, we use a multi-pronged approach. So
Okay.
anyone that's telling you in a service space, a retail specific or health and wellness space that just one avenue works for them, I would challenge that because for us, we take multiple approaches. And
Mhm.
we've got a lot of different marketing drivers, but especially going into a new market, you have to be able to throw a lot at the wall and see what is going to be really sticky. So
Mhm.
we handhold through all of the marketing
Okay.
process. We have in-house creative team that creates graphics. All of our franchisees possess their own Instagram handle
Mm,
specific to their market or region,
mhm,
and we provide them with a lot of those assets. And so the marketing collateral is super important because that cohesiveness between store to store and as a brand, as we grow, is super crucial. So, unlike most brands, we have a in-house marketing team that helps
mhm.
support and take on all of that.
Okay. That's awesome. All right. So those are the two big those are the big things. The investment level. People always now want to know uh what's the revenues? Oh, what is the investment level? And
Yeah.
that's critical. And then we'll talk about the revenue side of this as well.
So, initial investment in our FTD is at 334 to 670.
Okay.
That is the all in. That includes the initial fee. That includes 3 months of operating capital. That
Mm,
is everything to get your door open. So we're about half to a third less than our closest competitor.
and what's the footprint look like? How what's the retail space look like?
Yep. Ours typically range depending on the location, anywhere between 1,200 to 2,000 square feet, but we
Okay.
like to land the sweet spot is typically 1,500.
Okay.
We go in those
And how
high-end
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, we go
Higher
in
end.
high-end centers. We like to be around other wellness concepts, um, you know, healthy, fast casual, like Sweet Green,
Mhm,
Lululemon, any sort of bar method class, things like
mhm.
that.
That makes sense. I love it. Now, the revenue side of item 19.
Yeah, so average unit volume, $852,000, and that's for a store that's been open 12 months.
Wow.
Obviously, we are
852,000?
852. Yep.
Wow, that's strong.
Thank you. Yeah, and,
Mhm,
we're continuously seeing our flagship location continue to grow. So,
mhm.
at 6 years in, we're still not plateauing. That location is still growing and taking on new clients.
That's excellent. Um, Ideal candidate. I mean, I always anybody listening new to this, I always talk about, the person's not buying a franchise. The person is investing in a franchise, and they're investigating the franchise, and the franchisor is also investigating you as a potential candidate to make sure there's a cultural match. That's critical. What does the ideal candidate look like for you all?
I think you touched on such an important topic that I do
Mhm,
wanna just kind of pause on and call out. Making sure that it is a good match for both parties is so important,
mhm,
right? Because this is a long-term relationship. This is a 10-year commitment. And so you wanna
mhm.
make sure, I mean, it's essentially a marriage, right?
Yeah,
You wanna
it
make
is.
sure that it's a really good fit all around. And so I would say that that is super important for us when we have our discovery days. It really is understanding who the franchisee is and making sure they have a peek behind the curtain of what
Mhm.
our system looks like and who they'll be interfacing with day to day, especially on the corporate side. So I think that's something I would like to just call out and reiterate. That is so important.
And all that leads to the growth of the business. Where are you all right now, and what's the vision going forward? Because the growth has been really impressive that y'all have had so far.
Oh, thank you. Well, a little fun fact. We opened March 1st, 2019.
Mhm.
We were gathering a year's worth of data, right? Because you want to file that FDD and have some numbers for item 19. So March 1st, 2020, so excited. We're going to file our FDD.
Oh,
And timing couldn't have been more perfect, right? So
yeah.
we
That's
had to then, mandated to close for about 4 months. So we restarted franchising in 2021, and it was a huge blessing for us.
mhm,
We were able to actually create systems and process, and
mhm,
it's been pretty explosive ever since.
mhm.
Uh, right now, as it stands, we have 55 doors open. We'll
Okay.
have, by the end of this year, 80 stores open.
Wow.
And we're charting down a path that by the end of 2027, we will have 150 doors open.
Wow.
So we're
That's
excited
incredible.
with the growth. And
Yeah.
majority of our franchisees are owner operators and they have area developments. So they
Mm,
are investing again in the brand and they are opening multiple units.
okay. That's awesome. Um, your top guidance for someone considering a franchise, be it your brand or any other brand, what do you suggest? You've been at this for a while now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, make sure you understand kind of the relationship between franchisee, franchisor.
Mhm,
Understand what you're reading in the FDD. I think that's really important. And
mhm,
then make sure that you're vetting the other franchisees that are part of that system that have lived with it and understand it. And we fortunate enough we have a franchise advisory council
mhm,
and they help us, with the vetting process and they talk to prospects. And I think that's really important. Um, you want to make sure, like I said before, this is a long-term commitment. You want to make
mhm.
sure it fits for both parties.
Yeah, that's critical. That's everything we talked about is homework. In doing your due diligence, making sure it's the right fit for you, and the most important piece is the cultural piece. I
100%.
I always land with that. Folks, if you are interested in Face Foundry. I'm working with Michelle and her team. Just get in touch with me at yourfirstfranchise.com, and I will hit the contact us button. I will get in touch with you right away. Michelle, um, it's going to keep growing. It's just y'all are just getting started, which is
Oh,
really, you can have a fun ride ahead.
thank you. I'm itching to get to New Orleans, so hopefully we can find a great franchisee down there.
That would be fun for sure.
That would
Well,
be fun.
I appreciate you taking the time and being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And that is a wrap with Michelle. What a great space to be in, the beauty space. A lot of demand. And Michelle and her team, they know how to drive the marketing to build that business and grow that business. And the part that caught my attention is the fact that they've been around, what, 6 years, I believe now, and there's still growth happening at their original location, and their average unit volume is as strong as it is for units that are a year old. That's really, really strong. So if you're interested in this space, again, yourfirstfranchise.com. I'll ask you a favor. We produce these shows for free. The only ask is I'd love to just ask you to share this, like it on Apple. If you're watching YouTube, hit the bell, like it, subscribe. And I'd like to also gift you a copy of Your First Franchise Roadmap. All you have to do, it's my book. I get asked a lot of questions when I go to networking meetings, and people learn I'm a franchise consultant. And after a long time of being asked a lot of questions, I'm like, you know what? Let me write a book that answers those questions. It's called Your First Franchise Roadmap. I'd like to gift you a copy. You can get a copy at yourfirstfranchise.com, and it'll send you a copy for free. And if you'd like a paperback version of it, check it out on Amazon. And just know this, the paperback version, the profits go to Make a Wish. Now, you know the drill. You've been with me for a while. Be intentional and make today a great day. Bye.